As a newcomer to the Wicked fandom, my first viewing of the musical left me quite captivated and intrigued by the actual story behind the Land of Oz. However, there was something that bothered me quite deeply. It was Glinda. While she's often perceived as the charming good witch in many adaptations of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, she seems quite narcissistic throughout this particular story. Her constant need for validation, her superficiality, and her moments of self-absorption reveal a character more focused on her image and popularity than on genuine connections, prompting a much-needed analysis of her role in the story, especially regarding her narcissism in her friendship with Elphaba. If you're not familiar with this movie, it's set in the Land of Oz, basically before the events of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and the story follows Elphaba, who will become the Wicked Witch of the West, and her complex friendship with her classmate Glinda, who will ultimately become Glinda the Good. Glinda, often portrayed as the charming good witch in various adaptations of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, reveals a more self-absorbed side in Wicked. Her character exemplifies grandiose narcissism. Now, this is a personality trait characterized by a need for admiration, lack of empathy, and an inflated sense of self-importance. From the very beginning, Glinda's entrance at Shiz University is a spectacle, designed to garner the attention and admiration of her peers. However, the theatrics is not merely a quirk, it highlights her desperate need for validation. Narcissistic individuals often seek out praise to fuel their self-esteem. Glinda's behavior mirrors this, as she frequently fishes for compliments and expresses superficial insecurities, and her need for admiration overshadows her ability to be genuine at times. Her self-centeredness is also something seen in her interactions with others. She often places her own desires above those of her friends. For instance, when she manipulates her friendship with Elphaba, it becomes clear that her motives are less about being genuine and more about boosting her own image. While Glinda may be present for Elphaba during favorable moments, her support is rarely selfless. Instead, her actions often serve to enhance her own status, revealing a transactional nature of this friendship. In her song Popular, it's quite clear that while she intends to help Elphaba to become popular, Elphaba would not be as popular as her, or she wouldn't allow it rather. Even when she dances with Elphaba, though it may seem as it is, it's not purely an act of friendship. Rather, I believe it serves to make Glinda look like a martyr, as she tries to alleviate the guilt of her previous bullying. Now, you can decipher this scene however you may, but this is just my interpretation. There was one particular instance where she was fake and manipulative to protect her social standing and maintain her image as this perfect person. After asking her first, she encouraged Bach to ask out Nessa Rose, pretending to be kind, but her true intention was to deflect attention away from herself and save her image. This was very unnecessary, as she could have simply declined and moved on. Instead, her actions set the stage for a complicated relationship that is likely to end bad. Glinda's conversations often remain at a surface level, focusing on herself rather than meaningful discourse. This lack of depth in her interactions shows her unwillingness to engage in vulnerability. We can even get into her lack of empathy, which is very evident in her treatment of others. She fails to recognize the pain her words and actions cause, often prioritizing her own feelings and reputation over others. There's also the point where she had no empathy for the discrimination against the animals and was very disrespectful to Dr. Dillamond, especially when she kept correcting him on the pronunciation of her name, despite him explaining why he wasn't able to. Narcissists struggle to empathize, and Glinda's lack of emotional availability at times underscores her self-absorption. She often prioritizes her own reputation, so I do believe it's hard for her to care or prioritize the needs of others before her own. It was kind of awkward watching her pretend that she cared about the animals after finding out Fira actually cared about saving them. This self-serving behavior continues even when Elphaba invites her to join in her quest to confront the wizard, which I think was a huge mistake. Rather than supporting her friend, Glinda ultimately uses Elphaba as a means to an end. In contrast to Glinda, Elphaba embodies a selfless commitment to justice and compassion for the oppressed. This relationship serves as a foil, emphasizing Glinda's narcissism against Elphaba's depth of character. This stark contrast raises important questions about the nature of friendship and the impact of self-centeredness on those around us. I think Glinda's character serves as a lesson about the dangers of narcissism, especially for those who find themselves in friendships with individuals with grandiose personalities. Elphaba's naivete in trusting Glinda illustrates how easily one can be manipulated by someone who only poses or appears to be a friend. I also think a contributory factor to this is Elphaba's idealism and her lack of self-prioritization. This ultimately led to her suffering. Again, I just want to say this is just my interpretation of what I watched. You can comment down below if you agree or disagree with my commentary. Open discussion is welcome. Reflecting on Glinda's character, it becomes clear that she is a product of a society that rewards superficiality and self-serving behavior. Her admission to shiz based on her charm and beauty rather than her intellectual merit highlights how she has maneuvered throughout life by exploiting the expectations of others. Until there is a significant character development in Act 2, which I'm not sure about because again, I'm new to the fandom, and also in the first scene of the movie, Glinda refers to Elphaba as wicked, so I doubt it. Glinda remains a character firmly entrenched in her narcissism, potentially positioning herself as the true villain of the story.